here with Steve Case at South by Southwest, and we're going to talk about what he's up to here. So, Steve, welcome to South by.
It's great to be here. It's always fun. It's amazing to see all the energy here with a lot of people, ideas on how they're going to change the world.
Yeah. So you have a big announcement here that you've basically unleashed here. You're going to do another tour. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you've been up to?
Well, the Rise of the Rest, the whole idea is to celebrate entrepreneurship all across America. Of course, we're proud of what happened in Silicon Valley, in New York, Boston, but we're also proud of what happened in the middle of the country. And that doesn't get as much attention from the media. It doesn't get as much attention from investors. So last year we did 2 Rise of the Rest tours. The first one in the spring, we went to Detroit, then Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati and Nashville. Second one, we started Madison, then Minneapolis, Des Moines, Kansas City, and St. Louis. And in May, the first week of May, we're going to do one in the South. We're going to kick it off in Richmond, Virginia, then Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, then Charleston, South Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia. We're going to finish off in, of course, New Orleans. And so 5 great American cities with great histories, but also great futures because of what entrepreneurs are doing in each of those cities.
Well, that's just great. And actually, I'm actually going to be on the bus.
Exactly.
What do we do on the bus?
That's going to make it. We're going to, each day we kick it off with a breakfast, trying to gather people together, create more network density, drive more collaboration with the business leaders and the community leaders and the universities and the politicians and so forth. And then we travel around the city, visiting accelerators, visiting some startups. Then we have a lunch, kind of a fireside chat. Then we have a pitch competition in the afternoon with some of the best, most promising startups pitching. And then we end it with a party to celebrate entrepreneurship. And then we get on the bus and head to the next city.
That sounds pretty fun. I can't wait for May. So you're here at South by Southwest. You've given a couple different talks. You've met with a lot of people. You just did a pitch competition yourself. One of the things that kind of I pulled out was that you mentioned this is a pivotal time for the internet. And in saying that it's a pivotal time for the internet in that businesses and partnerships between the business and government are super important. Can you talk a little bit about that and like what you mean by that?
Well, I think there's another wave of internet companies breaking. The first wave, which I was involved in with AOL from sort of 1985 to 2000, was just building the internet, building the infrastructure, getting people to be aware of the internet. When we started AOL 30 years ago, only 3% of people were online. So the idea of getting America online was critical in that first phase. In the last 15 years or so, what I think of as the second wave of the internet, because the internet was already built, then the focus was building on top of the internet. So it's apps and services, Twitter and Snapchat and Facebook and so forth. Those will continue. But the third wave, I think, is going to be about integrating the internet more seamlessly and pervasively into our everyday lives. Things like healthcare and education and food and energy and transportation. And those industries are going to require more strategic partnerships with large companies. You can't really go it alone. And more of a dialogue with government because those industries are regulated. And also some like education and healthcare, the government's actually the major customer of learning, the major customer of health. So I think the entrepreneurs in this third wave are going to have a little different skill set, and I think my bet is the third wave and the Rise of the Rest will converge because some of the great industries are in the middle of the country. Some of the 75% of the Fortune 500 companies are in the middle of the country. So there's a big opportunity as this third wave breaks for a new kind of entrepreneur that recognizes that the power of partnerships with business and dialogue with government is important, and some of those will surprise people in terms of where they're located as the rest rises throughout the country.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Is there a specific thing you can call out that programs or whatever that government could do that might help in certain regions where you've been already and where you're going?
Well, there's some at sort of the national level, things like the Jobs Act that Congress passed a couple of years ago. The SEC still has to finalize the rules around crowdfunding to give every entrepreneur a shot if they have an idea. More investors, you have ability to invest in those ideas. Immigration has to happen at the national level so we can kind of win what's now a global battle for talent. But there is a role within each city, within each state, and the mayors and the governors are on the front lines there. And if we travel around, whether it be Detroit, which is coming out of bankruptcy in part based on what the startups are doing, or Pittsburgh, which is a strong relationship with the University of Carnegie Mellon. They're each a little bit different, but there's a role to play in setting the right table in terms of trying to have the right kind of smart regulations, but also celebrating entrepreneurs and really telling people in the community, including large companies, you have to embrace the small companies because that is the future of our economy. These small companies are, some of them at least, are going to end up being the large companies, and if we don't kind of nurture that seed corn of startups, we're going to have a community that is not thriving 20, 30 years from now.
That's a great analogy, seed corn, and actually it's almost like farming, like making sure that all this stuff is available across the country where there's a lot of opportunity. So thank you so much for joining us here in Austin, Texas. I'm Frank Gruber with Tech.co, here with Steve Case. we got the Rise to Rest coming at you really soon in May, so check that out soon.
See you on the bus.
See you on the bus. Yeah.
Exactly.